eventually it was like,
Your mom's gonna love these.
it was a 3-part miniseries. And so I decided I had to trim, and so that was as short as I could make it without. But anyway, several years ago, I had the idea of putting together a book on the local entertainment scene and local entertainers, and I was interviewing various guys that I knew from around the area about their lives and their biography, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to go back and see the entertainers that have the performing artists that come out here. And Terry was, believe it or not, one of the guys I interviewed. And I have a tape of this, of that interview. It's very hard to understand, but I went back over it doing this. And it was interesting to ask him questions about how he got started and his first impressions of magic and all those kinds of things and what got him into it. The things I didn't know, you know. One of my best friends, sometimes you don't know, since I didn't meet him until high school. He told me that one of his inspirations in magic came from a magic kit that he purchased from the Brandeis department store at Valley West Mall after they'd first moved to Iowa here, moved to Des Moines. And he had a magic kit, and he tried to fool his father. And his father refused to be fooled. There wasn't a thing he could do that he didn't somehow mess up, or he understood it, or whatever it was. And it was frustrating, and Terry just, he didn't know it. Until he did this trick.
That's right.
And he knew something was up because he got a chance to hear his dad say, "Do that again."
Oh, wow.
I don't do it the way Terry does. You'll have to bear with my routine. 3 things for rope, by the way. This is actually a very famous trick from the 50s. When a man who invented this, it was a pretty cool trick at the time, that he actually was in a contest, and the judges of the magic contest thought he was not working with, they thought that he was working with gimmicks, and he wasn't. The thing is, this became really marketed well, and it was one of the most successful tricks back in the 50s and 60s. Almost every professional magician did some version of this. We still all do it. At some point it kind of fell out of favor among the professional magicians, and it started being sold in magic kits to kids with kind of a dumbed down set of instructions. Let me do this in its original fashion. 3 different lengths of rope. This, of course, is the longest one. Would you mind taking a look at that, Mom? Examine it, pull on it, stretch on it, bite on it. Don't bite on it. Why don't spin? You'd like to take a look at it. Thank you very much. And yeah, I don't take that personal. They're ropes, they're not rubber bands, nothing inside them, nothing hiding inside them, no trap doors.
Nope.
CIA bugs.
Good job.
Rubber rope, you agree, yes?
No.
Fine by you, yes?
Just a rope.
Perfect.
That's your rope.
Yeah.
Your first name?
Coleman.
Coleman. Coleman, where'd you grow up? Where'd you spend your formative years when you were a little kid? Or have you had your formative years yet? You still waiting on
Here.
this? Here?
Yeah.
Oh. Thanks for letting us use the place.
Oh,
Coleman, did you hear a lot of bedtime stories when you were growing up? Bedtime stories? You remember those?
Sure.
Don't sound like you remember any. You remember any? Oh, I love bedtime stories. It's one of the top 10 best things in life. The magician that invented this based it on a bedtime story he heard when he was a kid. A bedtime story that he turned into a magic trick. What an idea. Let me share this bedtime story with you, folks. It's the story of the 3 worms. No one seemed to remember it. All right, well, Coleman, maybe this will take you back. Once upon a time, there was Papa Worm, Mama Worm, and Coleman. That's the story. One day the 3 worms got together, decided to go visit the grandmother, started wiggling along the ground the way worms do. They came to a very wide river, had to cross the river to get to Grandma's house. Papa Worm, long enough, he could cross the river. Mama Worm with a hop, she could make it, but Coleman was too short. That made Coleman very, very sad. They had to figure out a way to get Coleman across that river. They decided to try a little magic. They asked a local magician to cast a magic spell. He agreed to do that. He put all their heads in one hand. He put up their tails alongside their heads. The magician snapped his fingers. He waved his hands. And then he said some of those odd and mysterious magic words they always use. You know the kind. He said, abracadabra, hocus pocus, Paris Hilton. Those are the three most odd and mysterious things in the world, folks. Well, lightning flicked across the sky, thunder began to roar, and the worms began to stretch a little and grow. And stretch and grow until each and every worm became exactly the same length. The three worms could now cross the river without any problems at all. Keep drinking, it gets more amazing. Three worms didn't have any problems when they got to Grandma's house. Grandma took one look at him. She was mad. She said, "Hey! Which one's Coleman?" Well, she wouldn't tell them apart. They just had to change it back in, put their heads in one hand, tails in the other. Wave their heads over the tails. And ladies and gentlemen, that in fact is the story of Papa Worm,
Oh, great.
Mama Worm, and Coleman.
Ay,